Welcome to the channel. This is J-Man C, where we keep the wheels rolling and the cash flowing. So guys, as you already know, back in February, I did a business planning seminar, and one of the key things that I talked about was growing your business. Well, with growing your business, there's one crucial component, okay? And I also just dropped a quick video a couple weeks ago regarding, well, today I'm gonna go deeper and dive into the 5 people that you need to know once you get into the dump truck business. So if you plan on getting into the dump truck business and wanna know how to make 7 figures, these are the 5 people that you need to know when you're in the dump truck business. All right, guys, number 1, dispatcher. Guys, so if you don't already know what a dispatcher is going to be the person who will dispatch you and your truck or your trucks if you have multiple trucks. So it's crucial to know that a dispatcher plays a very important role when it comes to the dump truck business. Well, the dispatcher is going to dispatch your one truck or your multiple trucks, depending on how many trucks you have. Now, these guys normally work, or ladies normally work for gravel suppliers, asphalt suppliers, even dirt pits, sand pits, quarries, okay? And they're the ones that are responsible for calling you and saying, hey, Johnny, how you doing today? Listen, tomorrow I'm gonna need your truck to go to XYZ job or to go to multiple jobs depending on the line of work that you're doing for that supplier, okay? So just like if you own multiple trucks, they may send one truck to go to a job site and then may send the other truck or the other 2-3 trucks to different job sites, or they may send them all to the same job site, right? Or it could vary. So a dispatcher, one of their key roles is to dispatch the multiple trucks that you may have, right? And also, of course, dispatch everybody else that has a dump truck that works for that supplier, whether it's a gravel or dirt, a sand or a quarry, right? They play a crucial role, and it's extremely important for you to have good communication with them because obviously you're gonna be talking to them on a day-to-day basis. Now, a dispatcher could also work for a construction company. And if they're a bigger construction company that has a lot of work and has multiple jobs, they're gonna be doing the same thing. They're gonna be reaching out to you every day and letting you know, hey, tomorrow I need you to go to job, ABC at XYZ road for the next, day, or maybe even for the next 2 or 3 days. So it's very important for you to have a good line of communication. Now, to give you guys an example of what I mean by a good line of communication and how it's helped me build a good relationship with a dispatcher. So one of the construction companies that we work for, okay, usually they'll call me and they'll say, hey, Jay, tomorrow we're gonna have this job and we're gonna need 4 trucks. Or they may say, hey, Jay, tomorrow we're gonna have one job that needs 4 trucks, another job that needs 3 trucks, and another job that needs, 2 or 3 trucks. So all together, they may need 9 or 10 trucks in 3 different jobs, right? So that's what the dispatcher does. But with me, one thing that I like to do is I like to reach out to them, several hours before the end of the day, and I either give them a phone call or I'll send them a text, or I do both. And I basically just ask them, hey, how you doing? I hope everything's going well. Just want to ask you, are you going to be needing any of our trucks tomorrow? If so, please let me know. And something along those lines. And you can also send them a text. Sometimes they may be very busy, so you can also send them a text as well. So one thing that I like to do is I like to have clear communication with them, because I can tell you this, if they work for a big company, whether it's a supplier or a construction company, they may be dispatching 40, 50, 60, maybe even 100 trucks, maybe 200 trucks. You never know, right? So when you're talking about more than 20 or 30 trucks, not to mention again, 50, 60 or 100 trucks, you want to make sure you stand out. So one of the ways you do that is by having good communication with them. Obviously having a good attitude, but most importantly, reaching out to them, making sure it's on your priority to make sure that you give them a call, you text them and let them know, hey, I'm here, I'm available, and I'm waiting for you to let me know what you would like for us to do for you the next day. Another thing that I can tell you guys, when you build a good relationship or a good rapport with these dispatchers, they may come to a point where they may only need 20 or 30 trucks. And keep it in mind that if they're usually dispatching 50 or 60 trucks or maybe even 100, they may say, hey, you know what? We only need 20 trucks tomorrow between all the jobs combined. Well, I have a good line of communication with Jay. So you know what? Out of those 20 trucks, let's make sure we call Jay and at least ask him for 2 trucks or 3 trucks. Now, if you only own 1 truck, it's even more important for you to make sure you have a line of communication, because you obviously want to make sure that you're the one being dispatched the next day, considering that they may have multiple amount of trucks to dispatch the next day. So what I'm saying to you guys is you want to make sure you're one of the people that they dispatch the next day. All right, guys, the next person that you guys need to know is the foremans or the superintendents to the job sites. Now, foremans and superintendents are a key role for a construction company, guys. And the reason why they're so important is because a foreman is usually the guy that's on the ground, okay? He's the one that's on the actual job site, right? So if you're driving a dump truck and you own your truck and you're owner operator, you're probably gonna see this guy every day that you're on that job. So how important is it to get along with that guy, to have a good line of communication? Well, you already know. He's kind of like a coworker, right? So you definitely want to make sure you have a good line of communication with him. But most importantly, you want to get to know the person, because, when you get to know somebody, not only are you going to build a better working relationship, but also at the end of the day, you guys are also going to be on the same page and also be able to give the company more productivity. So what I mean by that is the following, if he says, hey, you know what, man, today we're going to be doing this and this for the rest of the day. Well, you just created a good line of communication, because he may tell you, you know what, we're going to be milling this road for the next 2-3 hours. But after that, I may need you to go and pick up a load of sand, or I may need you to go and pick up a load of base material. So these are things that you get to know as you start to get into the business, and you get to actually make a good line of communication with the foremen. So these guys are hands-on, right? They're the ones that are usually what I call running the show every day on the job site, right? So you definitely want to get to build a good relationship with them. And of course, get to know the guys. You never know where that could lead you. The one thing I can tell you is this, okay? From my experiences, being able to get along with foremen, not only do I build a better line of communication, but also they'll tell me like, hey, Jay, you know what? This is what we're going to be doing for the rest of the week. So what does that do for me? That allows me to put my schedule together, right? Especially if you're going to have multiple trucks at some point in time, right? That makes things easier for me. Now, if the foreman tells me, hey, Jay, you know what? This job, we're going to be doing the next several things for the next several weeks. Now I know that, I need to keep in mind that not only can they keep my trucks busy at this job site, but it also now gives me a plan and a schedule that I can build based on the information that he's given me, right? So it's important to have not only a good line of communication, but obviously be able to get along with these guys and understand how they work, so that you can also work well, and in return, it helps you build a good reputation. All right, guys, so with that being said, that leads to the following: superintendents. So you have your foremans. You started with the dispatcher, you have your foremans, and then you have your superintendents, right? So what is a superintendent? So a superintendent is basically the individual that's over not only the entire job site, he's usually above the foreman, he's usually also over multiple jobs. So let's go back to the example that I gave you of a large construction company. If that large construction company has several jobs, well, the superintendent is probably the one that's going to be over all of those jobs. So how important do you think it is to be able to get along with that individual? Well, you probably already know the answer to that. It's extremely important, right? Because that is the individual that says, hey, you know what? Who are we using on this job? Oh, we're using Johnny Trucking. Well, man, we're using Johnny Trucking. They're doing a good job. And guess who reports that to the superintendent? This guy right here, the foreman, right? The foreman is going to say, hey, you know what, man? I like the way that Johnny Trucking is doing business. Man, these guys, they know how to work. And so now the superintendent's like, you know what? We could also use Johnny Trucking on the other jobs that we have going on. So do you see how crucial it is to get along with the foremen and to also get to know the superintendents and obviously get along with them as well, right? Well, you build a good relationship with a superintendent. Now he's going to say, hey, you know what, Johnny Trucking, we could also use your services and all the other jobs that we may have going on. Now, if you're the guy that just started or is about to get started and only has one truck, that's okay, right? You cannot be at multiple jobs because you only have one truck. But what I'm doing here is I'm giving you a visual of how this works and how you eventually going to build a 7-figure business, right? Because with one truck, you're not going to be able to do that. But if you get to 2, 3, not to mention 4 or 5 trucks, you will get to a 7-figure business. And most importantly, you're going to get to know this guy, and you have to know him to build a 7-figure business, right? The superintendent, because he will have work at multiple jobs where you may have 2, 3 trucks on one job and maybe 1 or 2 on another job. So the superintendent, once again, he's the one that's basically overseeing all the jobs for that company. All right, guys, with that being said, who's next? The project managers or the PMs of the job sites. Now, project managers, guys, let me tell you, they are very important in the process of you building a seven-figure business. Why? Because once again, you start with a dispatcher, you have a foreman, you have a superintendent, and then next is a project manager. The project manager is usually over the foremen, the superintendents, and the dispatcher. What is a project manager? Well, the project manager is actually the person who's actually not only overseeing the job like the superintendent, but this person here is actually doing all the paperwork on that job. Now, what do you mean by paperwork, Jay? I mean the bills. The project manager is usually the one that's going to approve the bills on a job. So do you think it's important to know a project manager? Of course, right? Why? Because not only is he approving the bills for that job, that means that he's also approving your bills. So you go out on a job, you work for 9 or 10 hours, guess who's approving it? Project manager, right? So it's important to get to know the project manager. But most importantly, guys, here's one thing I can't tell you that I've learned about having a good relationship with a project manager, okay? The project manager is going to be the guy that says, hey, Jay, you know what? I see that, you got your trucks out here on this job, and I noticed that you guys are doing a good job. You know what, man? We got another job coming up in the next month, or we got another job coming up even 2-3 months down the road. And guess what they're going to do? The project managers are going to make sure that they put in a good word for you when it comes to that next job, right? And they're going to be keeping you in mind. So the project manager is not only going to manage that one job, but down the road, he's going to manage maybe multiple jobs, right? So not only are they approving the bill and they're paying your bill, right? But they're also going to be over multiple jobs later on down the road. And not to mention, guys, one thing that I've learned is that when you build a good relationship with a project manager, if you ever have a situation where you may have a problem, okay? Because problems do come up. That's just part of life, right? It's a part of any business. The project manager, he's going to be one of the first people that you may need to talk to resolve that issue. Now, what do I mean by that? You're going to have communication with foremen and superintendents, but if for one reason or the other, they can't solve it, this is the guy you need to get to know, because the project manager ultimately will be able to solve any situation that may come up on the job site that pertains to you as the hauler or the dump truck company. So make sure, guys, you get to know the project manager. It's very important. Now, again, at the beginning, you may only be dealing with dispatcher, but like I said, it takes some time. But to build a seven-figure business, we go to dispatcher, we build reports with foremen, superintendents, and then project managers. All right, guys, so that leads me to the following individuals, the estimators of the company. Okay, now, Jay, what's the estimator of a company have to do anything with you and hiring you as a dump truck company? A lot, guys. So if you don't already know what an estimator is, guess what? An estimator is actually the person responsible of hiring you. Yes, okay? Why is an estimator responsible of hiring you? Well, in most cases, okay, an estimator, what they do is they estimate a job, meaning there's a job site, okay? Let's just role play here and let's say that they're going to build a 10-story building or they're going to build a school. Well, before that job even goes out for bid, the company that is bidding on that job has what's called an estimator. An estimator is the one that bids on the job or bids on that school project, right? Now, what the estimator is going to do is they're going to call the trucking company. And let's just say that the trucking company needs to haul a lot of material, whether it's in or out of the job site, right? So what do they need? They need a quote for that, right? Because that's part of the estimating. What does the estimator do? They call up Johnny Trucking or they call Jay Mancini Trucking and say, hey, Jay, can you give us a quote? Can you give us a price on hauling X amount of tons or X amount of yards, whether it's in the job site or out of the job site or both, right? So it could be asphalt, again, it could be gravel, it could be dirt, it could be sand, whatever the case may be, but they're going to need a price from you. Now, once again, keep in mind that I know a lot of you watching may only be starting off with one truck, and that's fine. But again, what's the title of this video, guys? How to build a seven-figure business. So I may not be talking to you right now, but down the road, if you're the guy that's listening to this or the lady listening to this and wants to build a seven-figure business, this is where you need to pay attention, right? Because getting to know an estimator is going to get you there, right? And I can tell you this because that's how I got there. Getting to have these good relationships with the estimators. Why? Because they're going to again call you and they're going to say, hey, Jay, I need to get a quote for you to haul, let's just say 10,000 tons or 10,000 cubic yards, or it may be 100 yards. You never know, right? But whatever it is, you need to give them a quote to haul that material, whether it's in or out of the job site. So once again, you build a good relationship with them, you give them a quote, and then down the road, they say, hey, Jay, we got that school project, and there you go. Now you got your contract, and then when the job starts, they're gonna give you a call, and you go from there. And guys, another reason that it's great for you to build a good relationship with an estimator, and I'm gonna be very transparent here because it's happened to me. One thing that I can tell you is I've had a lot of scenarios where I get a phone call, right, from XYZ company, and they say, hey, Jay, you know what? I know you gave us a quote for X amount of dollars, but another company came in, they gave us a quote for maybe $1 less or $2 less. It may be a small percentage, right? But here's the thing, guys. When you build a good relationship and you build what I call good rapport with that estimator, what'll normally happen, guys, if it's a small percentage between the whatever quote you gave them and whatever quote the other trucking company gave them, there's a high probability that they're probably going to use you instead of the other individual, right? So that's another key component of why you need to have a good relationship with an estimator, because you never know what they may be thinking down the road. They may be saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, I could save a little bit of money going with ABC Trucking, but you know what? Jay Mancini Trucking, we already know he's reliable. We know that they give us good customer service, and we know that when we call him, he's going to be able to provide service. So with that being said, guys, it's extremely important for you to build a good relationship with the estimators of the company. All right, guys, last but not least, once you get to know the estimators, guess who's next on the list, guys? These are the big guys right here, the owners of the company. How important is it to know the owners of the company? A lot of guys don't even think about this, especially when they're first getting started and they just have one truck. They're probably just thinking, man, Jay, I just want to be able to get to work. I just want to be able to work every day. But again, the title of this video is people you need to know to build this. 7 figures, right? So you got to remember, guys, a lot of people have been asking me, hey, Jay, do you have, a course? Jay, can you dive a little deeper? We want to know more information on, how can we build a high successful dump truck business? So this video, especially for you guys, right? Owners of the company, that's the ultimate goal. That's who you want to get to know. Those are the guys you want to get to shake hands with and hopefully, build a relationship with them. Now, I know that may be a far reach, but guess what, guys? I've gotten to know a lot of owners of different companies, okay? And sometimes it takes years to do that. It may not happen over a day or two or a month or two. It may happen over 2-3 years or maybe even 5 years. I can't say this, guys. I did work for a company for 8 years before I actually met the owners. But you know what, guys? Once I met the owners, to tell you the truth, I started doing probably 60 to 70% of their work afterwards. Why? Because once they got to know me, they got to see who I really am, and they got to actually shake my hand, and I got to build rapport with them. Then they understood that I meant business, and I took everything that I do with pride. And guys, that led to only one thing. You know what that led to? More business, right? So with that being said, guys, it's extremely important for you to eventually get to know the owners of the company, because obviously they're the ones that are going to control everything, right? So owners of the company, they're going to tell the estimators, yes, hire that guy, or no, don't hire that guy. Ultimately, right? It's very important to get to know them. Eventually, that should be where you want to go. And again, guys, remember, if you want to build a 7-figure business, you got to know all 5 of these people: the dispatcher, the foremen, superintendents, project managers, estimators, and eventually owners of the company. So with that being said, guys, I hope you like this video. Make sure you DM me. Make sure you drop a comment below. And you already know what we do here. We keep the wheels rolling and the cash flowing. And we'll see you guys on the next one.